Hello, welcome to another episode of the Linux podcast. The Linux Rambling podcast, where I just ramble about some stuff. One of the first things, if you read the title of this video, you know what it's about. It's about xorg and Wayland. I figured I'd talk about my experience with them. There are some problems with both. If you want TLDR, I would, as of now, recommend xorg for most people, but Wayland has some strengths, and I want to go over them. But if you watch the whole video, I'll show you some of my reasons for this. One of the reasons, but Wayland, it's better in theory, but there are some issues about it which stand out, like lots of stuff just doesn't support it. In fact, in terms of desktop environments, I don't use desktop environments, but there's not very many that actually support it. The only ones that support I'm aware of is GNOME and KDE, which actually support Wayland. I know that XFCE doesn't. I don't think LXQT does it, or really any other desktop environments, Cinnamon, you name it. I don't think they generally support Wayland, just because it's a lot of work to port it to Wayland. So compatibility is not Wayland's biggest strong suit. Most things support xorg better. There are generally some alternatives, although it really depends on your use case whether or not those will work for you. Wayland is actually pretty stable. I've heard some people used to complain that it was very unstable and stuff would break or something. It's very stable to use. There's not really many stability issues with Wayland, and it's a pretty good experience if you can get everything working. But the issue is getting to that point of where everything works, because, for example, I think Steam, whenever I tried to run it under Wayland, it legitimately just would not launch, and I think the reason is that it only supports xorg. And for me, that's personally a deal breaker, which is why I switched back to xorg. I know you can use xWayland, but a lot of my applications that I use and stuff like that, they're just stuck on xorg. And so I just decided I'm just gonna stay on xorg because of that. Like Rofi, I don't think supports it. I know there's Wofi, which is like Rofi, but on Wayland. I haven't tried that, but there are quite a few things that unfortunately don't support Wayland unless you run through xWayland, and I'd rather not have to use a extra compatibility layer between all that and manage it. So it's just a lot more easy for an end user to use xorg than Wayland if it's not supported by the applications that you require. I've never tried xWayland, so maybe it might be easier set up or something, but it's not really worth it for me, at least. And while Wayland is pretty stable, xorg is just extremely stable. I don't think there's really any issues with it. It's been out for so long. I mean, there are some issues just with the way the code base has been, because it's so incredibly old. So there are some issues with it, but it's not likely to cause anything to break. Wayland does have some things that just don't work still. Not much. Generally, what I mean is, like features that are inherent to it, because I actually tried Wayland, and like using Wayland just alone, it feels a lot more like cohesive, I guess. While with xorg, there's quite a bit of bloat, I guess, that you just don't really need, and all that. With Wayland, it's a lot more just simple, and it does all of it itself. It's a very nice setup, I suppose. So I do prefer Wayland for that. Wayland, it also, I believe, has better security and a design, just because of how newer it is, and it isolates apps, I believe, and stuff like that. So, you know, being a newer technology, it has quite a few security advantages. You know, but it also lacks some features, unfortunately. Like on xorg, you can do, I believe, x11 forwarding, and I don't think there's any way to do that under Wayland. There might be, and I don't know about it, but I don't think there is. But yeah, for casual users, I would probably recommend most xorg. It's easy to set up, well documented, better application support. You know, if you're looking for something though more minimal and, you know, like it's a very specific use case, or you care about security more, I would recommend trying Wayland. As a matter of fact, I'd probably recommend trying Wayland anyway, if you have like the time. But there's a decent chance you might have to go back, and it's not difficult to switch, thankfully. So if you do regret your decision on going Wayland or xorg, then you can always switch. It's really not that big of a deal. But those are most of my thoughts. Yeah. I would definitely look into Wayland in the future, because it's very promising and there's a lot of things that I think are good about it. But I think xorg is going to be here to stay for a while, because it takes a lot of effort to just rewrite a lot of the stuff that Wayland has to do to get it to actually work, because it's pretty complicated. But those are most of my thoughts on it. So yeah, that's all I gotta say for today's episode of the Linux Podcast. Tomorrow I'm probably going to talk about my Pine phone. I'm not entirely sure, but I'm definitely considering it. And what I've been thinking of doing was getting like a GitLab or a what is it called? I think it's called .share.it or something like that, and it's a site where you can share .dot files. But I figured I might just post somewhere like the configs I use for like Qtile and, you know, other stuff, if you guys want to see it. If nobody asks me, then I probably just won't bother. But yeah, so feel free to tell me if you want me to do anything or talk about something in the podcast. Because yeah, but I think my next episode's probably going to be about my Pine phone. And what I'm thinking of doing is trying to find a way to where I can get, well, like what I'm trying to do is get my, I'm trying to use my phone kind of as a microphone, I guess, for my PC, and so that way I can record with like OBS or something, and then I can just show you guys the setup that I have on Qtile. It's pretty decent. There are some things I plan on changing. It's still a work in progress on what like everything that I've done, but it's a pretty good setup actually. I like it. It could be a lot better, but so far it's pretty good. Yeah, but if anyone has any suggestions on ways to use my phone as like a microphone for my PC, it would be useful, especially on Linux, because I've heard of like some applications like WoMic, and I think WoMic was actually malware, but it's one of the only ones I could find about it, and that doesn't support Linux. Not that I care, because what I've heard, it's malware. I don't know, it might not be, but that's what I heard. So feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. But you know, I might try doing it over like SSH on my Pine phone or something. I don't know. But I am definitely looking for a way to do that, because it would be a pretty big improvement in terms of just making videos and stuff like that. So I do want to show off. What I might do, if I can get that to work, I'm probably going to make like a Arch install tutorial or something like that. You know, just something interesting, I don't know. But yeah, I'll see you guys tomorrow or whenever I upload next.